Welcome to Chatting with Chief, hosted by Backpack Technologies LLC, a place where we talk about some of the hottest buzzwords in the IT and cyber worlds. Today's guest is Pat Perry from ZScaler, and I'm your host, Jason Blair from Backpack Technologies LLC. Pat is a retired Army Chief Warrant Officer whose assignments include the United States Special Operations Command and the United States Africa Command, or AFRICOM, and many others. Me and Pat go way back. So today's topic is one that's getting all the buzz, right? And that's the all-inclusive zero trust. But before we get into that, Pat, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about ZScaler and your role in the company?
Yeah, no, Jason, great seeing you again, man. It's amazing. As we were talking before, going 21 years ago now when we first met, in a military school at Fort Gordon or Augusta, whatever it's named right now. I think it's amazing that we can stay in touch and we can still share all this kind of, this passion towards, really pushing technology and helping the Army. So I work for a company called ZScaler now. In the end, when you really break us down, we're a capability that's delivered from the cloud, but we solve cybersecurity, specifically network security kind of requirements. We kind of deliver it all as a service. So we're this unique kind of new approach to getting after cyber threats and a lot of different network security requirements.
Okay. So, but what is it that you actually do inside the company? Like, what's your...
Yeah. So my role now is, I've been here for about 4 years since I retired from the Army, and I've kind of moved from a few different positions from, strategic initiatives, and now I'm the field CTO for all of DoD and IC for our company.
So since we're here to discuss zero trust, can you give me a brief overview of what it is? Like, can you kind of break it down in layman's terms?
Yeah. And in all honesty, zero trust is not a real new concept. A lot of people are trying to kind of take this idea and then make it as if it's this brand new approach. What I would offer to people is it's a rebranding of a lot of different approaches that's bringing synergy to them to re-architecting security around the IT environment. For too long now, IT is about creating things and making it work, and then somebody else comes in and adds security and makes it not work. Zero trust is really just the concept of really kind of taking even that term that 4 years ago buzzword of SecDevOps and turning it into an IT-wide security paradigm shift.
Okay. So I agree with you on it's not a new concept. I served 21 years in the Army. I absolutely, that we talked about it. Everything is always, well, maybe towards the later half of my career, is more how can we secure all of our data, not just from the outside threat, but from the inside threat as well. So what are some of the key components of the Zero Trust Architecture, or ZTA, and how do you think they should be implemented? And again, this is really just your opinion, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no. And, to your point, I remember, deploying years and years and never really thinking about security, minus the fact that, you turned on your encryption. That was security in the old comms days. And then that terrible moment of Buckshot Yankee where those doggone thumb drives were found and people blew up the entire environment, and now security mattered everywhere. And, all of our lives became absolute, crap shows because of security. But in the end, zero trust is really trying to take some fundamental aspects, like you pointed out, of identity, endpoint, the network itself, applications, and then also merging things like analytics with your SIEM and your, where you're bringing all your logs into, your, ability to, tag and actually manipulate access controls for data. And then finally, how are you actually getting after bringing this together in a very synergetic approach, like, the other buzzwords of orchestration and automation. So it's all those things, but again, it's taking it from a cybersecurity perspective of stopping bad things from happening in your environment, but at the same time, giving your environment the freedom of movement to work in an optimized state by working together with more synergy.
Dang, yeah. And I like what you said, the freedom of movement, right? Because now you're not just having to be tied just to an office or to a certain geographic. So it's like, okay, but so how would you say the ZTA can improve the posture of the DoD and the federal government?
Yeah, I think it really kind of makes it easy because, again, like we always say in the military, hey, the simpler we make things work and work together, we go out there and we practice and practice how we work all together and make it to where it works really clean, that muscle memory kind of thing. That's what Zero Trust is trying to get after. So again, the simpler we make the way we view security and how we're actually, again, stopping the bad guy and improving the way data flows between from one end to another, it's going to drastically improve both security because, again, the simpler something is, the more secure it is usually. And at the same time, the simpler it is, the better it will probably operate for that user experience even. You won't have to worry about this constant conflict of what I like to refer to as the gas pedal, brake pedal, knee-jerk reactions that we constantly do. And when we run environments and we secure environments, it's like pushing gas pedal and brake pedal nonstop together.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's a good segue right into my next question. So, as you were speaking towards the user experience, right? So how does the ZTA impact that and their productivity?
Yeah.
How can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, and honestly, the best thing about that is if you actually do research deep into what Zero Trust first came from way back in the day with even before Beyond Corp and the things where they call the deperimeterization efforts of another group, the whole concept there is to make security work better for people that are in all different places. So again, get away from this idea that people only work inside the perimeter and are only going to things inside the perimeter. People are everywhere, and we got to make it work really well. Well, based on those principles, Zero Trust, the idea of it is to shape security more around the user and most importantly, the organizational leader. In the military, we call it the commander. What does the commander need to do his mission in the information domain? Well, Zero Trust is all about enabling those operations in the most secure way, no matter where anybody or the data is.
Speaking of which, though, if there's an organization that's out there, they've done all their scans and all the criteria to make sure that they're secure. How can something like that? How can you measure the effectiveness of ZTA, especially not with somebody that hasn't experienced a breach or anything like that, which we all know is coming. But how can that be measured?
Yeah, so I'll break that into two different parts: measuring ZTA and measuring the cyber effectiveness of your ZTA. So measuring ZTA is, again, pretty easily measured. And hey, where are we at right now? How far are we getting from here? Because obviously, the Zero Trust is not a huge buzzword, not just in the military, but the whole world, for a reason. And the reason is the way we've been doing cybersecurity for so many years is just not working. If it was, we wouldn't need Zero Trust. So all we have to do is analyze where we're at right now and get as far away from there as possible, and we're going to get a good measurements of success. Are we achieving Zero Trust? But I would offer the real ways to measure it, though, is, again, take all those key pillars and stuff we talked about, and how well are they working together? Again, together, not just, hey, do they work in their own silos, but how well are they working together? And then measuring that cybersecurity effectiveness of your Zero Trust, to your point of the breaches and stuff, is we've got to get to that point where Netflix used to call it, and it became a huge buzzword, a decade ago, of this approach called Chaos Monkey, where we have to nonstop just implement problems into our environment and see how fast we react to them. We got to get out of this mindset that, hey, no, I just want to have this good, warm feeling that it's good. I don't really want somebody evaluating me to validate it. Kind of like when you're out in the field and you're like, hey, no, I'm good with my field exercise. I don't want, Op 4 to come and attack me. I don't want them to prove that my security sucks. Well, that's what we need to get to. We need to get to that point where we're nonstop attacking our own environment and literally just directly ingesting problems to see how fast we can react to it, and not focus on like, oh my gosh, the problem actually impacted us. Is how fast were we able to react? Let's grade ourselves on our ability to react real fast. That is when we're going to really realize the value of both Zero Trust and modernizing our approach to cybersecurity at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the fact that you brought up the Op 4. For those who don't know what Op 4 is, when we have an exercise, they're the simulated enemy combatants that try to get into your area. So that's a very good analogy and something that the military used to do. I mean, they still do, and it's a good practice, but defense in depth. But I think zero trust is a little bit more ingrained in that, because if somebody is to break into the wire, per se, they still will now have access to everything in the kingdom. And correct me if I'm wrong, if that's a good assumption or a good analogy on that, Pat.
You're spot on. I can go in long in depth on my analogy of zero trust is really bringing the security approaches to the cyber domain that we already practice in the physical domain. To your point, you have a perimeter, you might have gate guards, but just because somebody bad breaches the gate guard doesn't mean he can now willy-nilly do whatever he wants without being, molested or stopped at other points. So you're spot on that zero trust is not even a new concept to the security-minded person. We're just not doing it in the cyber domain properly, like we already are in the physical security domain.
So, one last question for you before we break up out of here. All right, and this one is probably a longer answer, or you can answer it as quickly as you can, however you do it. You're Pat Perry. You got a way with words, right? All right. So, what are the biggest implementation challenges that you think the DoD and/or the federal government faces when implementing this solution?
Yeah, so I'll break it down to three things, and I'll keep it pretty short because you're right. I can diatribe about this for quite a while. But anybody that really wants to know my opinion, just go on LinkedIn and you'll see me, rant about it all the time. But the first one is getting out of their own way. The government needs to get out of its own way on how to really drive transformation. Transformation means being uncomfortable and trying things really new. And unfortunately, innovation and transformation is kind of the opposite of standards and policies. So you have to reevaluate your standards and policies in order to make space for you to innovate and transform your environment. So get out of their own way. Second one is start using things that are different and that got them into the mess that they're in right now. If you're constantly going to the same partners, whether it's vendors, whether it's integrators, whether it's whatever, that have already put you in the predicament that you're in, and you expect them to now all of a sudden have the capability or even the motivation to take you to those different levels, it's probably not the case, unfortunately. Again, change is there for a reason. And then the last part is again, don't assume just because you're an expert at the technology fields 10 years ago that they work the same now. Things work way different now. The greatest thing that I've been exposed to in the 4 years since I've been retired is how much industry has gone way past what we're used to doing. And so if you look at the problem with the solution in mind based on what you knew 10 years ago, you'll never see the opportunities 10 years from now. And that's what industry's already doing.
Wow. All right. So thanks for meeting with me today, Pat. And, as always, the conversation is good. And for everybody out there that wants to know a little bit more about, or a lot of bit more about, ZTA or anything like that, I would say, reach out to Pat. He's a wealth of knowledge. And speaking on that, Pat, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, man. So, I'm on LinkedIn. You can just look up Patrick Perry. Perry 2019, I think, is my LinkedIn, account. I'm not on any other social media. Honestly, just find me there. Again, I usually rant 2 to 3 times a day. So, it won't take too long to find me. And the beard, the square beard, SpongeBob square beard look, it's just kind of a giveaway.
Pat, man, this is great, man. I appreciate everything. And you have a good one. All right, everybody. I'll see you later.
I look forward to the next time too, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a next time. All right, we out.